We're going to call the meeting to order the February 22nd, 2023 meeting of the Lake Commission, Lake Quinsigamond Commission. This is, thank you all for coming. This is the first meeting of the season. So we've got a couple things to go through. We don't have a quorum right now, so we won't be able to vote on anything. But you can take all the stuff we have here at least and go through it as best as possible. So this meeting is being filmed right now and audio recorded. And you, for those who are here, you can watch it again if you want to see yourself on TV. And for the folks at home, you'll be able to watch it here. You'll be able to watch it on the Shrewsbury Media Connection app. And it's being broadcast. I'm pretty sure it's being broadcast live right now. So plenty of opportunity to review it if you can't sleep. All right. So the first thing we need to do is vote to appoint LQC officers, which we can't do. So we'll go through. We'll skip over that. Then review and act on the acceptance of minutes of the November 2022 meeting. That was the last meeting we had. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to review the minutes from last
Yes.
November. Okay, we can't vote on it, but we'll do that. If for some reason we have a participant that comes in, or a board member that comes in afterwards, we can kind of circle back around and do this. And review and approve bills and expenses. We also can't vote on that. And move around to number 6, public participation. So is it Igor or Igor? Igor? Yep. So this is how this works. In case, and I don't know if you've watched a commission meeting before. So we have a public participation where you can get up and you can, say your stuff for like 3 minutes. Typically, we don't do a back and forth on it. I think I have at least some guidance for you, because I'm familiar with the topic you're going to bring up. So have it. Just tell us your name and your address for the record.
Igor Sorokin, 24 Lakeside Drive, Shrewsbury. Thank you to the board and members for hearing my statement on this. So I moved to the area in November 2021, and so last season was my first season on the lake. And when I moved there in the spring, things looked good, and early summer, but then late summer, my area of the lake around Edgemere just was overgrown with lily pads to the point where I couldn't even do any non-motorized sports. I'm thinking about getting a boat this summer, and I think it will be impossible to get out to the rest of the lake. If you look on Google Maps, you could just see how overgrown that side of the lake is compared to the other side. That has more traffic, obviously, whereas my side, it's a little quieter, which is definitely a benefit. But the overgrowth of the lily pads, I talking with my neighbors who have been living there for a lot longer, have said that it's getting out of control. I have a neighbor who's been living there for, he said, about 40 years, and he said previously that the town would bring in people and machines to kind of clean up the lily pads, but that hasn't happened in a few years from what I'm told. So I just wanted to bring up the topic that, it's getting a little bit crazy with the overgrowth, and if, anything could be done about it, that would be appreciated.
Okay. So I live on Flint Pond, so I'm really familiar with what you're saying, and I used to have a house on Lakeside Drive as well. So I'm a fellow Edgemerian. That is getting worse and worse every year. It's getting more and more overgrown. So, this is kind of the natural course of things. I certainly have a concern about it. We treat weeds all over the lake. Mostly our targets are non-native invasive species The lily pads you're talking about are actually native to the lake. So that's not really typically one of our targets. Doesn't mean we can't do something or target that kind of plant, but we have a big challenge where you are. And according to our permits, we can't use any chemical treatments north of Route 20 because we have an endangered species in the water body or a habitat for endangered species, which is called vasei. So that's a challenge, and we have to figure out how we're going to deal with something like that. The only thing we could do is to do some kind of hand harvesting. And I don't know if you're familiar with what those lilies, they're all pretty on the top. I don't know if you've ever seen the roots of it. Have you seen?
As deep as I could see, I could tell that it's really deep.
Yeah, it's a
down
big,
under there.
thick, looks like a anaconda under there. I'm not sure exactly what we can do in the short term about it, but I understand where it's coming from. But that's really the challenge we have to deal with now. So, and it doesn't mean that there's not something you could do. So, to get yourself a path in there, but we're just governed by the permits we have. Yep.
Okay.
Kind of. I know it's not an answer you want to hear, but that's kind of where we are at this point with it. So.
Is it true that before there was people or machines that came in to dig up the?
I only recall one time where they brought a mechanical harvester onto that part of the pond.
Mr. Chair, if I can, because I remember I was a part of the group that petitioned the town way back when, and at this point in time, it's about 30 years ago, to do a very expensive and extensive harvesting and treatment of the weeds in the section of the lake that you're talking about. And it lasted for about a year or two, and then they grew back. And in fact, last year in your pond, but closer to Sunset Beach, there was some harvesting of weeds. In this case, it was water chestnut, right? You guys did a whole
Yeah, that was
bunch
a.
of- but it wasn't exactly near your house, but it was pretty close. But that was water chestnut because that's another truly very invasive weed. But again, not to say that. We can't authorize you to go buy equipment to go harvest and all that stuff. But let's just hope that with progress over the years, with the lake getting more and more use, we can kind of like push this issue in the future. I don't want to make promises we can't keep, but it's been done in the past. It doesn't mean it can't be done again in the future, because now there's a whole bunch of apartments behind Market Basket. People know that, and then eventually those people, that's a whole issue in themselves. They're going to want to, use that end of the lake going towards the dam there. And I just hope that we can offer you something like this in the future, but at the moment, I don't know really what can be done because of what's already been articulated by the chairman, Peter Collins, already. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so to kind of flesh out a couple of those things too, is that 30 years ago we hadn't discovered that we had an endangered species in there.
Yeah.
So mechanical harvesting for us is out at this point until there's some other determination that it's safe to do it in the habitat. And so it would have to be basically a hand pull at this stage of the game. That's my understanding of it, unless Natural Heritage would come back and say, well, yeah, you can do that. Our concern is if you go with the other side of, right across from you is Witch Rock Island, and that little narrow part there. And then beside that is an island they call Cuba, which looks like Cuba, I guess, if you look at it from the top. On the other side of that whole thing, and if you ever go around to Flint Pond, you look over to the left and it's just overgrown.
Yeah, you can't.
There. You can't even get yeah, you're right. You can't get a kayak, you can't get a canoe through there, you can't get anything through there. So I definitely do not, and that's my fear there, that could happen on that section of the pond. I think it's, I think it's probably unlikely based on the boat traffic that goes through there and keeps the middle part clear. But, that is an issue. And secondly, Michael brought up the harvesting of the water chestnut. The reason it's away from your house right now is because we took it out. I would ask you to keep an eye out for water chestnut. You can see it you can look it up on the web and just show you what it is. It's extremely invasive, meaning like that patch, which was significant over on the eastern side of, we call it Round Pond, on the eastern side of the Round Pond there, it was pretty big. But if we had not dealt with that in 2 years, that would be a way bigger problem than your lilies, because it would cover the whole pond. So we're going to probably solicit you guys over there to help us pull those things, and because that's what it was. It was basically a resident, volunteer program. We all went up, and we had a couple people with boats and canoes, and we got some trash bags, and Eric got a front end loader and took the stuff out after we brought it over to the Shrewsbury Boathouse. So, and you get a chance to meet all your neighbors on the lake. So,
Mr. Chair, can I add a comment?
Sure.
I want to say just a comment about the biology. The lily pads have, as Peter mentioned earlier, incredibly thick, up to 3 inches diameter roots that grow and get worse year after year after year. So if you can, and the other point, it's not boat traffic that cuts them up, it's a shallowness. They grow in really shallow water, which is really an advantage. If you want a little narrow channel to your dock, if you can hand pull it before the roots get too thick and numerous, and then just thin it out every year as soon as the water's warm enough to get in it, you might be able to hand pull a thin little channel pointing towards your dock. Because what you'd never want to let it do is fill in to the extent that the roots just get more and more numerous and start to grow up, and it becomes impassable.
I have to use a machete. Seriously.
Under the water.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, thank you for hearing my concerns.
Thanks, Hugo. Thanks for coming up. Is there anyone else for public participation? Okay, so I'm gonna kind of jump down to unless we already have this on
Number
there.
9?
Well, I want to kind of. I'm assuming you guys are in here to get the permit for the. All right, so we're not going to be able to vote on it, unfortunately, because we're not. I don't. I'm not speaking for the entire board, speaking for myself, and I don't see any issues with this date or what you guys are doing over there. So. Obviously it's the same old thing, which we want an open lane on one side and everything to be safe, and you have all the, permits from the people that aren't us, environmental and all that stuff. Are these gonna be ramp closures? So, I think you'll probably be okay, but.
Can I ask a point of information, if I could, for the people here tonight that are given a request for this Quinsigamond Sprints Regatta on July 30th from 7:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m.? When you say Quinsigamond Sprints, who does this involve? Colleges, high schools? Is it master's level? Just for a point of information.
Sure. All right. My name is Harry Sankrad, 35 Trowbridge Lane, right here in Shrewsbury. The event on July 30th, it's a Sunday, last Sunday in July, is meant to build on the success of the first Masters rowing event we had on the lake.
Okay.
Outside of Masters Nationals. And as I mentioned, the event was very successful, organized in collaboration between Quinsigamond Rowing Club, which I represent, and Joe May Worcester Boat Club, with at that time 60 boats, and we were full with the event about a month before and had a wait list of people. So this time here, the intent is to have up to 100 boats in the event, but basically everything else is the same.
Okay.
Okay, so
So it's
don't
masters,
don't
not
want,
college
so you don't want a
high
no wake there and a
Well, it kind of goes with the territory. I mean, last time we had the EPA, I believe, sitting right north of Route 9 Bridge.
EPOs, yeah, yeah. Well,
and
that's
that worked.
that's because we had a ramp closure and so we need to know that we're going to close the lake down. You're essentially closing the lake down when you do that. So. What?
Yeah, we didn't have the ramp closed.
No ramp closure.
So I mean, it was
No?
basically the police boat engaging with people that were coming up to take it up slow
Okay.
in the breaks between the races, rather than just plowing up and creating a wake.
All right, but boats were coming in and out of the ramp?
Yep.
We allowed passage of the boats between the races, and that would
Okay.
be the intention here as well.
Right.
Not to interrupt anything else going on in the lake, maybe just for a couple of minutes.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I can comment?
Sure.
From my recollection as well, it was just a police boat there doing its normal duty, telling people as they came up the lake that, there was some racing going on, that there was no official closure of anything.
Okay. I mean, when you say normal duty, that they're not,
Right.
they don't typically hang out at the north end of the bridge, and it's during the day. All right, but that's fine as long as it's got a handle. I just don't, I'd rather not have conflicts with people coming in and out of the ramp, right? And certainly that's why we want the lane on the east side, on the Shrewsbury side, opened up so a boat can pass through in between heats.
Mr. Chair, if I can ask a question? If we need to vote on this, or we can't tonight, I'd like to ask of you folks, can you wait 30 days until the next meeting?
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
That's okay? Yeah.
Yeah, and then similar to last year, we updated our event package,
Yeah,
and that is available electronically as a PDF.
okay,
It's about 10 pages and includes the safety plan, has a certificate of insurance, an outline of the event, organizational step-by-step descriptions of, volunteers and all the
Okay.
details. So it's
right,
very comprehensive.
okay. And you've notified the environmental police?
We were going to do that after we get the permit here.
Okay,
But,
perfect.
We'll start the process.
Okay. That's what I'm just thinking, kind of get it going, and then hopefully we'll be able to nail it down next month.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
Good. Thanks for coming in, guys. Sorry that we couldn't get this done. All right.
The update of the lake management plan?
The adaptive water ski thing, we can't vote on that anyway, and those guys aren't here, so I'm not
Yeah.
going to worry about that. So the updated lake management plan. Update on the drawdown, we're going to, I believe that the impoundment is going to, the re-impoundment, meaning they're going to put the water back in the lake, will start on or about March 1st. Under our permit, we have to, we're supposed to have this back to what they call a normal pool or the normal level by April 1st. So those of you at home, it's the lake's going to be coming back up. Going to start raising the dam.
About March 1st.
About March, we're going to start about March 1st, and they go up a couple inches each time they do it, and it takes about 2 weeks or so before it gets all the way to the top, and then the water comes up. Typically, we get it unless it's a really dry season or something. We get it to the top pretty quick.
So that's 1 week from today.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's going to start coming up, and hopefully it'll be up there. Some of that's not governed by us, but we'll do our part. We'll get the dam up. That's what we need to do. The dam, our friends at the DCR can, they come in and physically help raise the dam every year. So thanks out to those guys. We did get a weed map report. I only have one copy with me here today. But basically, it's pretty comprehensive. They went through, they mapped out all the different invasives that we have out there and the ones that we're likely to be treating. I believe they're going to want to go back on at least one of the species that really is more present in May and June than it is in September when they did this survey last year. in 2022. So other than that, it's pretty much the normal suspects where we know things are. Good news is that I think we're still trying to negotiate with Natural Heritage about treating in Half Moon Cove and Old Faith Cove for Eurasian milfoil, and those coves both have identifiable habitat with vasei in it, with the endangered species. So, but we have a new chemical that we piloted there, and it did seem to get rid of the milfoil and not affect the Eurasian, the Potamogeton, or the vasei. So that's good news, and we'll be able to start treating there. Bad news. In Old Faith, there's a fair amount of fanwort. Fanwort is not affected by Procyllicor, which is the chemical we use that doesn't hurt the vasei. I know this gets complicated, but it doesn't hurt the vasei and kills the milfoil. So the fanwort will probably have to do some type of either dash, which is kind of a vacuum-assisted hand pulling, or just a straight hand pulling with divers, and there to get rid of the fanwort. The good news when you eradicate or when you remove an invasive from an area, the invasive goes away, but it allows the area to grow other things. And a couple of things can happen. Fanwort has historically, in this lake at least, has historically taken over. We'll get rid of the milfoil, and then fanwort will take over, so now we just got another problem. I know at Indian Lake this year, Jacqueline Burmeister she and I were discussing it, and when they got rid of the milfoil using Procyllicor, they had a Potamogeton over there, which wasn't vasei, thankfully for them, but that took over. And that's a indigenous plant, which normally you wouldn't target, except it became a nuisance. So, it's a constant struggle. So that's and you want plants in your lake. You don't want to just kill every plant that's out there because it's in your way. You don't like feeling it on your feet, because that's what keeps the lake alive. So anyway, so that's that. So it's mostly in the places where we've seen it before, mostly in Flint Pond, so it's south of Route 20, is Eurasian milfoil and fanwort, and the naiad, which is the one they got to go back and take a look at. So it looks good. The main body of the lake, really not a lot of invasive species out there. So from we'll say Sunset Beach down. There's a little bit of we had a little bit of a veggie bloom over by behind Ramshorn Island. We have to deal with down there, and then there's a small patch of fanwort way north by West Main Street, Lincoln Street area over there. So, but other than that, it looks pretty good. They did not see the water chestnut because by the time they went out there, we had taken all of it out. But there are blooms of water chestnut in Old Faith Cove, which had a pretty good patch in it, and then the one in Round Pond by Sunset Beach was also significant. Matter of fact, it was bigger than the one in Old Faith. So we're going to have to keep a monitor on that, because once it's in your lake, it's in your lake. And it's almost impossible to get rid of entirely, but if we keep working on it, I don't know if you've ever seen a water chestnut, but doesn't look like much from the top, but you pull it out, it's got a nut or fruit on the bottom of it, and it's all, you don't want to get, you don't want to step on it, you don't want to get it in your hands.
It's like a sea urchin. It's spiky.
It's spiky, and it's nasty. But once those things go into when they fall and they go into the sediment, they could last up to a decade in there before they come back out again. So, it's a problem. But as long as we keep on it, and I want to thank all the volunteers that were with us last year to help us pull that out. And a lot of people showed up, and a lot of people that weren't even from that part of the lake showed up. So that was nice that we have that kind of support. All right. We kind of discussed the pilot study for natural heritage. We want to turn it into actually, get permission from them to just treat it normally like we always do. So So we're hoping to turn the pilot into a yearly or an annual
Treatment?
ability to deal with those invasives over there using the proper techniques. And we're going to talk about the treatments in a second because I'm going to go over the budget. And the update and approve of the drawdown, the permits for Newton Pond. We're still working on that with ESS at this point, so that's also in the budget. We'll talk about that in a second. And update on the Grafton CPC project. So we did a project where we looked over at the southern part of Flint Pond. We wanted to kind of study if flow or the water flow was affected at all by events that may have happened at Wyman Gordon or the town of Grafton, or however they did some stuff, because there was some kind of rumor or legend that they had rerouted a stream and they had done a bunch of different stuff over there. And the study was actually pretty comprehensive. They got aerial photographs, which were really cool, that dated back to the 30s. There were these, surprising resolution. It wasn't,
Rainy?
it wasn't 4K, but it was pretty good. And they showed the area. It was interesting because they showed the area, before the Edgemere Drive-In was there, the old Oak Island, and it showed like all the way up halfway up the pond. I think the Tacit may have been in those photos. Anyway, it was surprising to me because a lot of it looked like it looks now. So it looked like there was a veggie growth in that part of Flint Pond. And I'm talking of part of Flint Pond that's east of the peninsula that goes out there. So that's what we're really studying. I think that the result of the study is going to be that we're going to have to spend a little bit more time figuring out how we're going to try to mitigate that. The whole purpose of the study was to be able to mitigate it and to make Flint Pond more navigable and set it up for a safer recreation point. So we're hoping to, because that's overgrown, kind of like Round Pond that we were just talking about before, where these folks live. And we want to just make sure that we can do everything we can to keep the lake healthy and make it flow. Also, that's a significant place to keep flow going because that's right above the Irish Dam. And the Irish Dam is really where the lake flows into the Quinsigamond River. So it's important to keep that clear, and it'll affect the way the whole lake flows. So we don't want that area to choke out. But you talk to some of the people that live along Faulkner Road there, which is a neighborhood right on the Grafton side.
Damn.
That kind of runs parallel with Creeper Hill Road. And they said, they used to water ski. The water was open over there. It was nice. It was kind of like the other side of Flint Pond. So, we're hoping to bring that back to, if we can find a way to do it, to bring it back to the other side and see what happens. Let's see. And then purchase and install 2 buoys for Kings Point. We can't vote on this tonight, but we voted a few years ago to put up no wake zone signs at Kings Point. And we really want to get that done before the season opens up and starts it. All right, so since we have a couple of rowers here, good news and bad news. We're going to, Kings Point, there's no wake. Good news. Bad news are the plan is to put a buoy on each side, the north and south side of the point, a little further out. But it's going to constrict the passageway. You may say, well, that's going to slow traffic down. Yes, that's why we're doing it. We want to slow traffic down. So if we're doing it there's going to be a physical thing there, but also there's going to be a big sign that says no wake. So I think it's going to be safer for everybody, and hopefully we can work around it. So that's the update on that, but I want to get those buoys in as soon as possible to get going. Okay, so we're going to go with funding on the proposed budget, or whatever I did with it. We'll go through that real quick. So, and we'll make sure that this document gets online as well. So you'll have that. There's also the weed map, the weed report rather, I should say, gets on there. So you can kind of correlate what we were talking about. Vegetation mapping for Lake Quinsigamond and Newton Pond. So, we really should be doing a map every year to make sure that we're treating in the right spots, that we know what we're doing. It also helps us establish a budget and how much it's going to cost approximately to do all this stuff. A number of years ago, we changed our permits to allow us to the ability to have more chemicals, say more arrows in the quiver here, so we can use different tools to fight the invasives when we need to do it, instead of having just one chemical, which is how the permits were set up before. But the issue with that is, it's more complicated to get the bidding through and all that. So it's how many acres and how many you're going to do per acre and what chemical are you going to use and everything. And some chemicals you can't use every year and all that. So it gets a little bit more complicated, but it's way more effective that we're able to treat with different chemicals that suit us well. An example of that is Procyllicor, which we added to the permit 2 years ago, that it gives us the ability to treat Eurasian milfoil in an area that we have an endangered species. So it's good to be able to be more dynamic than we were before. So in order to do that, though, realistically, we really need to know exactly where the weeds are. So they basically, the organizations that we hire go out, they look for the weeds visibly, they take samples of it, and they identify the concentration of the weeds and where exactly they are in the lake. So it's good. And when you see the report, you'll see that there's maps of all the different. They have a map of Lake Quinsigamond, the entire lake, and of every invasive that we're treating against right now. So you'll be able to see the concentration levels and where specifically they are. We don't map. Just to kind of make this, we really aren't mapping the water lilies and all the natural or the indigenous plants that we have in there, tape grass and stuff like that. So just basically invasives. You'll still see a significant in your area. You'll still see a significant amount of activity there. So that's what that basically is, and. We're doing a drawdown application for Newton Pond, which has not had a drawdown. Newton Pond is a great place to do a drawdown. I think it's going to be very effective because it's relatively shallow there. Unlike Lake Quinsigamond, who's 65 feet deep, a drawdown, there's no way to put all that water. So the drawdown's not really that effective in the main part of the lake, although we don't need it because the weeds aren't really growing that. Especially invasives aren't growing that much over there, but it is really effective in the Flint Pond in the southern part of the lake where it's a little bit more shallow, and the invasives tend to take root. So we're going to do that. Newton Pond, I think, will also be a good candidate for drawdown, and it should be really effective. But we have to get permits to do it, and which means that we have to do studies and the shape of the lake and all the flow and all that stuff. So we have to get that done. Hopefully this year, so we can do a permit and get the Newton Pond drawdown going. I thought on Lake Quinsigamond proper, we have to go through 3 communities. Newton Pond's good because we only have 2 communities. We have Boylston and Shrewsbury. Lake Quinsigamond proper, we have 3 communities. We have Worcester, Grafton, and Shrewsbury. So they all have to sign off on the permits. We have to go through conservation in each of the towns. That's why we have representatives from all the conservation boards. We have a representative from Worcester with Amanda, and we have representation with Ken Polito. Grafton's seat isn't filled this year, so we're going to have to get that done. But so we go through all the permits, but unfortunately, the permits aren't all scheduled at the same time for some reason, because some permits are 2 years. Is Worcester's 2 years? Is Worcester 3?
I actually don't know.
Yeah, so one of them's different, so it always throws me off. But I guess Shrewsbury, we're good till next year, so 2024.
And you can extend your application one more time.
One more time. Okay, so Worcester, I think they're on a shorter schedule, so they're a 1-year extension. And Shrewsbury, do we get just one more year, or do we extend the whole term?
It was either 2 or 3 years.
Okay. So Worcester, I believe, is a one-year extension, so we have to keep doing it. We may be at the end of our rope there.
And who would I talk to if I wanted to get the answers for those questions?
Eric,
Eric.
I would think,
So,
at Worcester, not this Eric.
all right.
All right, so we can figure that. If you could help me with that, that'd be awesome. If we have to go for permitting, that's probably what's going to cost us to go through all the studies and the engineering and all the stuff we have to do to get through that. And bacteria sampling, we've been working with the Lake Quinsigamond Water Association and to do our own bacteria sampling along the lake. We currently sample, I think, at 6 locations right now. And we want to keep that going. We want to expand on some of that. So I have a budget in here of $8,000. It's roughly $1,000 per location that we sample. So you can kind of do the math there. So we want to kind of keep expanding that. Right now, we're testing in some obvious places. We test at the Belmont Street outfall, which consistently brings back higher than we want levels of bacteria coming out. That outfall is right at the corner of Route 9, right at the bridge, right at the head of the Worcester side of the bridge on the south side. But it's the outfall that basically is the bottom of the stormwater system on Belmont Hill. So all of that stuff that's on Belmont Street and all the streets around it connect to it, all the storm drains up by the biotech campuses and all that stuff come into and come out that particular outfall. So, after a storm, that's particularly concerning. We want to test in front of the Lake Avenue pump station for obvious reasons, and the Whitler Drive pump station. I think we also tested Coal Mine Brook. We tested Tilly Brook, which is across, right next to Buca de Pepo there. That water's coming down from Old Mill Road, but it also flows underneath all that development at the Lakeway Plaza and all the restaurants and whatnot that go through there. So, Lake Quinsigamond is surprisingly clean for where we are and the dense development that we have there. So we're happy about that. But we want to keep the testing. I think it's important for the commission to have this going and have the experience, because it's not just going out there and testing. You have to be certified, kind of. There's a thing called a QAP that it basically makes, and I'm dumbing this down for my own purpose, but it's basically a document that defines your procedure that's approved by the state. So you have to have this in place. So it's something that takes a while to do, and it takes a while to get the experience of it. This testing is all done by volunteers who go out there and they do the tests. So the money really we pay to the labs. That's what that's all about. So that's nice. So it's like people volunteering to go out there and spend their time testing it. The other place we want to put a new place we want to put do a test on is that there's a new outfall, as some of you know, and everyone in Shrewsbury knows, we have a new market basket in town, and that's great. But they also, with that came a new outfall into Lake Quinsigamond. So the stormwater runoff from that facility and the parking lot, some of it goes into their own retention ponds, but some of it gets out onto Route 20, and the development up the hill on Route 20 as well all comes down. And there's a new outfall that goes in right at the bridge on the south side of the lake, on the bridge, right there at Route 20. Goes right into that little channel into Flint Pond. So we want to keep an eye on that right there. So that's one of the things we're going to add on. So that kind of explains what we're doing there. Now, the rest of it, we have treatments on here, and I define the treatment, and this kind of came from the report, but basically what we think we're going to be treating with Procillicor, for example. Procillicor is relatively expensive to treat with, so we're probably going to be about $50,000 with the Procillicor treatments this year. And then the next one down, and I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, but it's Flumioxazine.
Flumioxazine.
Thank you. That is the treatment that we can use for fan wart. The chemical treatment we can use for fan wart when we're not trying to treat in an area that has a sensitive species in it. So that's an easy one. Dash is an assisted harvesting technique. It's basically a hand pull, but it's assisted with like a vacuum. So it's got some machinery to it, but it's allowed in the habitat. That's what we use for the pull fan wart in a habitat where there is vacei. So that's what that is. And that's basically going to be in Round Pond down by you folks, and also in the old Faith Cove that's outside of, I don't know if you know where that is. Old Faith Cove is the one that kind of borders the lakeside of Sunset Beach. And goes down and kind of goes around South Quinsig, and it's down there. And then a vegetation treatment bid assistance. So where this comes from last year is that when Angela was still with us, it was, again, the bidding process gets extremely complicated, and we felt that it may be better to have someone that's more experienced and educated in this type of thing to do to help us with the bidding, so we're getting it right. And last year it kind of delayed us getting out and treating things. It made us do it a little bit later than we wanted to do it, because we couldn't get the bids right, and we coming back, and it was very confusing because one company would bid $1 per acre, one company would bid $100 per acre, and you didn't know like what they were using or how they were doing it, and I don't think they were sure of it. So we want to make sure we do the right thing. We're getting the biggest bang for our buck. So that's what that's in there for. Down to public safety, because weed treatments are only a part of what we have to do. Luckily, public safety, law enforcement is basically handled by the town of Shrewsbury, the Shrewsbury PD. And I'm saying probably the person that's on there the most after Shrewsbury PD is the environmental police, and then the city of Worcester, and then sporadically the state police. So they pay their officers, they handle all that stuff. It's not coming out of our budget. That's all good. So luckily we don't have to do that. But that's an enormous amount of money. When we did an estimate on it, it was probably, I'm going to say, over $250,000, and that was 2 officers to be on the lake 7 days a week. So it's not inexpensive. So we really appreciate the support we get from law enforcement, and we think that the lake is definitely been a safer, more reasonable place to hang out than it has been in the past. So we're happy. And I know we have a lot of work to do still, but it's good. So we want to put signage at the Corzini and the Oak Island boat ramps. We do this every year. We kind of keep tweaking this, but I just want to make sure that everyone understands the rules when they put their boat in. Speed limits. We can't have every rule that Lake Quinsigamond has on there because there's 32 of them, I think. So obviously we have to have a huge sign to put that up there, small print. But at least, speed limits and whatnot over there, and to make sure that they understand that going in. Handouts, I'd like to, do a handout that, we can give people the rules of the lake, some kind of handout, maybe a little card or something. We can give them, again, the basic rules of the lake, speed limits and times, and maybe a suggested traffic pattern. that kind of thing. So we'd like to get that done this year. And then hazard markers. So every year we have to, repair or replace some of the hazard markers because they get beat up out there. So some get holes in them and whatnot. So those, when I say hazard markers, those are the buoys. We would like to put some lights on. The ones at the no wake zone in front of the Corziti boat ramp. And I think someone suggested, I think it was one of the rowers suggested yellow. Am I,
Yeah,
oh, was it that?
yeah.
Okay. So we're going to switch that. Last year, someone literally stole the lights off the buoys. You guys know anything about that?
We heard about it.
So anyway, I'm kidding. I know you guys didn't have anything to do with it, but so somebody either needed a light or they were disgruntled about something else because the buoys were there, I guess. I don't know. But, I think it would probably be a good idea to put lights on a lot of the buoys out there, especially the low shallow spots, especially at night so people don't, because by the time you see the buoy at night, if it doesn't have a light on it, you probably already hear your motor hitting. So, matter of fact, a couple of spots, I know that by experience. So, anyway, that's what that's about. So we put some budget in there so we can replace those. Typically, the police will handle it as far as putting them in and all that. So we're grateful for those guys for doing that too. And they usually actually go and get order them and get them all done. So we just want to make sure we give them some money to be able to do it. And that's basically what the expenditures on the budget go. I don't have the budget numbers yet for what we're going to put in. I sent a letter to Senator Michael Moore and Representative Hannah Kane, to request an appropriation from the state of $40,000. They did this in 2017. We did get an appropriation from the state. We asked for 40, we got 20. I'm hoping that they're going to come through with the whole amount this time.
Mr. Chair,
So we're looking to do that, yep.
I can, just to kind of put it in some conceptual framework, all of that which Chairman Collins just went over in terms of the vegetation, the treatments, the signage, this and that all comes up to $137,400. So talking about a significant expense, just an annual expense in terms of trying to do some maintenance of the lake. So it's not like $5,000 or $10,000. It's a hunk of change. So that's why we have to appeal to like Senator Moore to help out with, in dock fees and, otherwise, historically, it hasn't been easy to cobble together the money that's necessary to maintain the lake. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks. Good point. I was going to give you that total in a second, but yes, that's it's not cheap to do what we're doing, and we want to make this sustainable, and it's not just the state. The town of Shrewsbury also gives us a generous appropriation, both for Lake Quinsigamond proper and for Newton Pond. So we get money from those folks. Last year, Worcester, they paid for the weed report, which was a significant amount of money. And they do some other stuff on there, which I think is more helpful to their purposes than what I have in mind. But it's still appreciated. And the town of Grafton was also not just the CPC money we got last season, but also they had an appropriation of like $5,000 towards helping us with the lake. And Grafton, of all the communities, has the smallest portion of the lake in the town. So the smallest portion of the lake, unfortunately, has the highest concentration of Eurasian milfoil in it. So there's that. But we really appreciate all the help we're getting from that. We also, and this is a deal that when I first approached the towns to give us appropriations, the then town manager in Shrewsbury, Dan Magato, had said, what are the first question he asked me was, what are the dock fees? And basically, he said, look, we want to see, from Shrewsbury's perspective, we want to see that the dock fees, or the commissions will say contribution to the the pot of money is equal to what we're contributing every year. So in order to get it up to where we are, we've set a precedence of raising the dock fees like $5 a year until we get to the level where we're going to be contributing as much as each of the towns are. So that's what that's all about. That was on the agenda to vote for a dock, fee increase. So we've kind of, bumped it up $5 every year to get on there. Still, I think this year it's going to, if we bump it up $5, it's going to be $50 for a plate, to renew your plate. Compared to some other locations, it's pretty inexpensive for a dock on Lake Quinsigamond. But that's kind of where we get the inflows. And we also have some contributions, and we have fees from the events that we have out in the lake. So that's not so significant, I guess, but it's still all helpful, and we really appreciate it. All right, that's that. Any questions from the board about?
No, you covered it in quite a bit of detail.
Okay, thank you. All right, so moving right along. If you enact on raising dock fees, okay, we can't do that. Update from Jacqueline Burmeister, who's not here. She's also, I encourage you to watch this. Oh, you have an update from Jacqueline?
Yeah. Tonight, right now, the reason she's not here, she's doing the State of the Lakes tonight. It is on live stream. It might still be going on at the end of this meeting. If not, it'll be made available on their YouTube page eventually. So check that out. And then they're getting ready for the next summer season for the Cyanobacteria Monitoring Collaborative. And they're going to be hosting an online training/info session Wednesday, April 12th at 6:30. It's online. Go to worcestermass.gov or worcesterma.gov/WCMC for info on that one.
We'll put that also on the Quinsigamond,
Yep.
Lake Quinsigamond website, Lake Quinsigamond Commission website. A great program. I am a, what do you call it, citizen scientist?
Yes, you were a volunteer.
Volunteer.
I'm also a volunteer.
That's right. So, I go out there in my my lab coat and stick my arm in a big green cyanobacteria bloom and
Goo.
get a sample. So, no, I'm only kidding. Typically, there's no big green cyanobacteria bloom, and do not stick your hand in there. That said, it's a good thing for the lake. Unfortunately, in front of my house, it's more likely to happen than in other parts of the lake, but it's still a really good program to monitor. And you can also go, I think it's every other week, right, Alyssa? You can go there and actually look in the microscope and.
It's the third Saturday of the month. You can actually take your samples and we process them so that you can look at it under a microscope.
Yeah.
It's like the first Monday, you just drop it off and go. And
Right.
The third Saturday, as of last year's schedule, the third Saturday is look at it under the microscope and do the
Yeah,
exhibit.
so it's
If you want, you
Yeah,
don't feel
it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, to do it anyway.
The kids like it.
The kids like it, that's right. So, that's cool. And then update from the watershed did not have an update per se, but I'm gonna I'm gonna check my text because I know Barb had they will have an update next month, but also next month they'll talk about the results of the bacteria. We talked about the bacteria testing that we did as a commission in the watershed. They'll have that report for us next month. So that'll be good. All right, and review correspondence, which
No more ASCII core.
what's that?
All we had was,
What's the letter from Mike, to Mike Moore? That was,
yeah, that you mentioned that in the budget.
all right, okay. So, and then set a date for the next meeting, which is the last Wednesday of the month.
It's Jessica reserved this room on the 22nd.
So it's not the
Wednesday,
last
March
Wednesday of the month.
22nd.
It's gonna be yeah.
So it's gonna be the third Wednesday of the
Yeah.
month?
And then after that, we will see the status of the police station.
Okay, perfect.
So Wednesday, the 22nd, here.
All right, perfect. Oh, I'm sorry, before we adjourn, I did speak with the chief of, Shrewsbury Police Chief, and it looks like a couple law enforcement issues which I wanted to talk to in the management report, but it looks like we are getting a jet ski, or Shrewsbury's getting a jet ski to patrol the lake. Very good news, because of right now, none of the boats that they use for law enforcement can get onto Sunset Beach. So essentially, that leaves our section of the lake unpatrolled most of the time, right? So they're going to have a jet ski back over there. Make sure you have your life vest on your paddleboard and your kayak, because I know that the EPOs were stopping people last year for not having that on there. EPO also has a jet ski that they're going to use, and they may have a smaller boat that they're going to be able to stick under there. Worcester is also threatening to put a boat on the lake. That'll be good. They're getting a new boat. And right now, we're kind of in the design phase of a new dock for the environmental police that's going to be positioned right next to the Shrewsbury Boathouse, so that they're going on. They're going to be coming on the lake a little bit more than as well. This is all really good news. Lake Quinsigamond is a really challenging lake to patrol because of the length and the width of it. So, and the fact that we have some obstructions of the way that the boats are set up now. So that's all good news. I wanted to throw that in there.
I make a motion, Mr. Chair,
Sure.
that we adjourn?
Is there a second? Oh, we
Second.
can't vote. So
So we can't adjourn, so we're
we
stuck.
can't adjourn. I guess we're just going to have to go through this whole thing again. All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We're adjourned. I can make that decision without a vote.